Right now, I'm challenging myself to see if I can make 128 Regulation H teams that are each different from one another over the course of 128 days. Why 128, you might ask? At the end of the 128 days, we're going to do something special where we battle every team against each other in a single elimination bracket to see which team emerges on top. There will be some competitively strong teams, there will be some gimmick teams, and there will be some probably a good number of goofs and gaffs in there, so if you want to follow through to the end, subscribe so that you can keep up with each day. But without further ado, let's move on to day 77. Alright everybody, welcome back to another video, and in today's video we are going to be going over another Dozo team for the second day of Dozo week, and this Dozo team is revolving around Tatsugiri getting knocked out whenever Dozo has its Dozo mode activated. Now there are a few ways in order to do this. Sometimes you can use Perish Song and then have the Dozo swap in on the turn that Tatsugiri gets knocked out from Perish Song in order to get Tatsugiri off the field so that you can have two Pokemon on the field to take advantage of Dozo's buffs, mainly the Flamigo, but we also have the Meowstic on this team. But our Tatsugiri is going to be slowly chipping itself away by using the Toxic Orb, as we'll talk about in a bit. And just as like a forenote, this is probably my least favorite form of Dozo strategy, is trying to kill Tatsugiri in order to get another Pokemon on the field next to Dozo, as I feel like it's like pretty easily counterable and it's just kind of boring really. So if I don't sound too excited, this might be the least excited I am to record one of these videos, but I'm gonna try and give it my best. I tried putting my own personal spin on the team. It's just that there's only so much that you can do with this kind of strategy. Starting off with our Dozo here, we have our Stab Liquidation as well as the Order Up in order to increase our attack with the curly form Tatsugiri, and we also have the Rock Slide in case we need to get some flinches on the opponent, but it's also nice to have a Rock Spread move, the physical move, in order to hit the opponent. And our Dozo is going to be unaware so that we're immune to the other Pokemon's stat changes, so that way we can keep Dozo from just getting built up against while Dozo is stalling for Tatsugiri to get knocked out. And we're a Clear Amulet so that we are not losing any of our stat changes unless it's something like Haze or Clear Smog, and we are Terra Steel specifically to try and dodge the Clear Smog. Up next we got Tatsugiri, and this Tatsugiri is going to be holding the Toxic Orb in order to get poisoned, and it will get poisoned at the end of the first turn. So what we can do is that if we think the opponent is going to attack into Tatsugiri in order to get it KO'd and we lead a Pokemon that's not Dozo, we can go for the Endure, which will leave us at least 1 HP depending on how many attacks go into Tatsugiri, and then Tatsugiri will get poisoned at the end of the turn, but it will not take poison damage at the end of the first turn that it gets poisoned by the Toxic Orb. So once you bring in Dozo on the next turn, Tatsugiri will get knocked out, and then you can immediately start going with the strategy. As well as we also have Muddy Water and Draco Meteor just for some good stab moves. In case we think the opponent is not going to attack into Tatsugiri, we can maybe get off some Muddy Water Draco Meteor chip. As well as we also have the Protect in order to try and save us from fake outs, which also means that we won't be able to use Endure in order to get us down to 1 HP because we'll take poison damage after the first turn. So if we use Protect on the first turn, it's not going to work out. We also have the Terra Ghost specifically for dodging the fake out, but we really don't want to be tearing Tatsugiri since it's not going to be one of our attackers, and because of the Toxic Orb, it's not going to stay on the field for a super long amount of time. Next up we got Flamigo, and of course Flamigo is the main Pokemon that this Dozo strategy works with because of its Co-Star ability. We'll have Flamigo copy the stat boost or drops of its ally Pokemon, and since Dozo is going to be having all of those boosts, Flamigo is also going to benefit from all of those boosts. And then once we get Flamigo on the field, we just want to be hitting the opponent with a lot of tight coverage in our 2 stabs in the Brave Bird and in close combat, but also the Throat Chop for some dark type damage against some psychic types is nice. And we have the Terra Blast in case the opponent intimidates us. It will become a special attack if our attack gets too low, but we have a lot of our stuff invested in attack, so I wouldn't count on that happening too often. But we are Terra Rock, Terra Blast, and Rock is some more good type coverage for a Flamigo to have to try and counter other flying types. And we're Covert Cloak on Flamigo just so that we are avoiding secondary effects, the most notable one being the fake outs. Or that we have Meowstic, and we saw Meowstic a long time ago using a team that's kind of similar to this one, which was the Scoville and Muck team with the Dozo and the Tatsugiri. However, this team is definitely a step below even the Scoville and Muck team in terms of how much I like using the team. But regardless, this Meowstic works in a pretty similar way where we have the Prankster in order to give priority to all of our status moves, and we have one status move in the Psych Up. So in case we don't want to bring Flamingo to the game, we can use Meowstic, and then we can side Psych Up the Dozo in order to copy all of its boost, and then we can start throwing out some Haymaker stored powers when we have all the boost, and then Shadow Ball and Thunderbolt. I did those backwards, but they're both here just to give us the type coverage that Meowstic needs in order to win the game, and we're Terra Electric just to boost the power of Thunderbolt, but also Electric only has one weakness to ground, who we're hopefully getting rid of all the ground types with Dozo or maybe Tatsugiri. And we're Safety Goggles on Meowstic just so Meowstic's Psych Up is not getting redirected by the powder moves. So for the last two, I just decided to slap on a pretty standard stat boosting couple Pokemon here, and that is Archaludon, who we all know for the side population bomb to proc Archaludon's stamina in order to give you a defense boost every time you take a hit, so we can become super physically tanky with Archaludon and then start trying to set up sword stances for either Flamingo to gain an actual attack boost or for Meowstic to gain like a decent stored power boost and then become super physically tanky for the endgame. As well as also for ourselves, we have the Heavy Slam just to try and deal some decent steel type damage. And with the leftovers, we can have a little bit more longevity by stalling with our Protect in order to heal ourselves for at least a bit. And Terra Flying lets us dodge our ground weakness, and it makes us resistant to our previous fighting type weakness. And last but not least, we have the Mousehold, who is hopefully going to be side population bombing into Archaludon, and I decided to put Focus Sash on Mousehold because I was using Wide Lens, and Wide Lens missed the 1% time, and it like made the game matter, which really frustrated me. So we're using Focus Sash now to hopefully not miss and maybe get off a population bomb into something that tries to throw like a super, like an eruption or something into Mousehold. We can population bomb them. So we have the Follow Me for the redirection, and we have the Taunt in order to maybe stop the opponent's redirection so that we can get the side population bomb off into the Archaludon, and we're Friend Guard in order to prevent our allies from taking damage, and we're Terra Ghost to perhaps dodge the Fake Out, but also all normal type damage to dodge on Mousehold is nice. You could perhaps Follow Me other population bombs. But yeah, that's the basic gist of the team. Let's get into some battles. Alright, so up first we have a Rain team with Pelipper, Arc, and Basket Legion, but they have the Floatzel as another probably Swift Swimmon, as well as they have the Electabuzz for the redirection, and they have Amogus for just general good support. So we start the game with Archaludon and Flamingo here, as I didn't want to commit the Tatsugiri immediately, seeing as there was going to be a lot of stuff to pressure the Tatsu and the Dozo right off the bat, and it's perfectly possible that the Amogus had Clear Smog or the Electabuzz was gonna do something weird, I think was my thought process. I was also hoping they taunt into Flamingo here, but we just get the close combat into Archaludon, but it's not quite enough to take it out as we get the body press into Electabuzz, but Electabuzz is static, not Vital Spirit, so we get paralyzed there. As we swap in Tatsugiri here, as I figured that we weren't going to see, like, Tatsugiri could probably take an attack from whatever gets thrown out here. And then we get the poison proc, as Electabuzz probably wasn't going to do any damage this turn because it didn't want to risk procking the Archaludon's defense boost. And the Archaludon itself, if anything, probably would have gone for, if it went for like Electro Shot into Tatsugiri there, I feel like Tatsugiri would have lived it because it is +1, but it's not stab. But Tatsugiri gets off the poison here. We protect with Tatsugiri in order to start Tatsu stalling as the opposing Archaludon goes for the Electro Shot, and we're just body press shipping the Electabuzz here as Tatsu's starting to take the Toxic. And Pelipper swaps in here, and we swap in Dozo in order to save Tatsugiri in order to activate full Dozo mode, and they Electro Shot with Archaludon, but Tatsu is safe on this turn as the Archaludon gains health, but Tatsu loses health, and we Terra Steel our Dozo just so that we are not taking the super effective Electro Shot. Not that we care about the boost because we're unaware, but to make Electro Shot do that much damage. And Pelipper goes for Ice Beam, but into Tatsugiri for some reason, which Not quite sure why, but the next order up is going to KO the Archelodon as Pelipper is able to U-turn on Dozo, and they bring in Basculegion here, and Tatsu's health is taken down even more so, and they try wave crashing into Dozo, but we protect stalling in order to get Tatsugiri off the field, and it only needs one more turn, and wave crash comes out. It actually does a lot less than I thought we're going to do into Dozo, but we get to liquidation out Electabuzz, so now it is just Basculegion and Pelipper, but they will have the full grain turns here as Flamigo gets to come in and copy the stat boost off of Dozo, and Last Respects isn't doing too much damage, and we can just throw Chop into the Basculegion, and Rock Slide Pelipper, and Flamigo takes the Hurricane real well because of our special defense boost, and we just throw Chop Pelipper because it's a super guaranteed way to take out Pelipper. So this one we played a little bit risky. I remembered why the reason I started with Tatsu is because if the Amogus puts Tatsu to sleep, it means the Poison Orb won't activate for a while, and Tatsu will be asleep, so it can't play defensively or anything. And if we activate the Dozo mode with Tatsu asleep, then Tatsu won't die, which means the entire strategy just immediately doesn't work. So we needed to kind of lead two things that could pressure the Amogus, which is why Flamigo and Archelodon came. Up next, we have a pretty good spread of like Trick Room mons here, as the Hatterene is really the only Pokemon that can set Trick Room, but it looks like it can do it pretty reliably with both like Incineroar, Fake Out support, and the Amogus's redirection, and Hydrapple, Kingambit, and Hisuian Decidueye all really value the Trick Room. So we start Archelodon and Mousehold here to maybe pressure the side beat up into Archelodon, and Incineroar comes in and of course gets that Intimidate down, and they immediately fake out Mousehold, so they must have been okay with me possibly Taragotasting Mousehold and then just clicking the side Population Bomb into Archelodon and getting off the Body Press into Incineroar, which tells me that they probably have more Trick Room based pieces in the back. So it's better if we try stalling for a bit. So I just went for the Sword Stance because I wanted to specifically target the Hatterene, as it's one of the slowest Trick Room pieces. And I believe in this game I brought the Solo Dozo, and Solo Dozo is only 55 base speed, which can underspeed like a good number of things like the Decidueye and maybe Kingambit, depending on how Kingambit's trained. But on this turn, they decide to swap it into Decidueye as they knock off Archelodon's leftovers, but they proc our stamina at least one time. But the Heavy Slam isn't going to do very much damage into Decidueye. Decidueye decides to go for the Terra Fire, and we just redirect the triple arrows into Mousehold as they taunt into Archelodon, but we body press Decidueye, and that does good damage into it. And now we have Dozo, who's guaranteed slower, as they decide to swap back in Hatterene here, but we get good liquidation into Hatterene, and we get a full-on body press into the Kingambit, flat out just taking it out. And now the opponent only has one turn left to Trick Room, but they get to Intimidate, and Dondozo's Clamulate, but Archelodon's not. And they bring back in Decidueye here as they Giga Drain with Hatterene, which is an interesting tech move, but we just get to liquidation down Decidueye and I think I doubled the slot in case something crazy happened, as Archelodon can probably pretty easily handle the Hatterene at this point. But now they get to bring back in Incineroar for more fake out pressure, but they decided to taunt Dozo here for whatever reason, but I just went for the Rock Slide since Dondozo is probably faster than Hatterene, so it's at least worth trying to get the flinch into it this turn. And even if they took out Dondozo, it's not too bad at this point since we have Archelodon just to body press Incineroar and Heavy Slam into Hatterene, and they've used their Terra, so it's all good. It's just for Archelodon to finish the game here. And the nice thing about Archelodon's Sword Stancing is now we can bring in Flamigo to copy the attack boost, and we close combat into Incineroar, and we get the Heavy Slam into Hatterene in order to end the game. And lastly, we have what looks to be a pretty offensive Annihilate support team, as they have like Whimsicott for the side beat up, and all of these mons really are either here to like drop attack for the opponent in the Incineroar or the Gyarados is what it looks like, or Sinistcha can just come in and heal up the Annihilate, so we gotta watch that Annihilate basically. But we lead Tatsugiri and Flamigo here, as I wanted to see if we can maybe get Flamigo to get a cheeky kill on something or pressure a Terra into something. And they do lead Annihilate right away with the Whimsicott, and Flamigo copies nothing here. But they immediately Terra Fire their Annihilate, which is great for our Dozo in the back, and they Tailwind with Whimsicott as they go for the bulk up with Annihilate. So we just get two flat out Brave Bird into Whimsicott in order to take that out. And it also means that we cannot be taunted on future turns, which is nice. I So this is kind of risky here. We can go for the double protect on Tatsugiri. I really thought that they would attack into Flamigo, since it's very easy for us to just swap in Dozo on this turn, and then they just miss all of their attacks into Tatsugiri. Like, we could have gone for the Muddy Water on Tatsugiri, but it's maybe better if they go for like the Hyper Voice with Ursaluna. That could bring us low enough to knock it out, but hard to say. But I mean, going for the protect and whiffing it here isn't big deal, as they Rage Fist and they Blood Moon Flamigo to super duper take out Flamigo there, perhaps expecting that Dozo switch in. But now we get the Dozo switch in for free, and we see that the Ursaluna decides to protect on this turn, and they go for the Drain Punch with Dozo, as I tried to liquidation the Ursaluna, since it's kind of the biggest threat to our strategy right now. And we can just protect with Dozo this turn in order to stall out their Tailwind, and the opponent is bulking up, and they go for Hyper Voice with Ursaluna, but now their Tailwind has run out, so we're going to see who's actually faster than who. Annihilate gets the crit there, but we are faster than the Ursaluna, even though we don't have a lot of speed investment on Dozo. And Incineroar comes in and it gets the Intimidate down, but it only matters for Dozo and Dozo's Clamulate. They try faking out Dozo, but we get the protect on Dozo, and Tatsu is nearing death. They Drain Punch Dozo again, but we liquidation Annihilate, and that claps it because we're unaware, so we ignore its defense boost. And Incineroar finally gets rid of the Clear Amulet, and it would be very easy for us to just use the liquidation into Incineroar this turn. However, we brought Meowstic because I needed a game where Meowstic did something. So we Terra Electric Meowstic here in order to dodge a super effective Dark Attack, and this is technically optimal that we protect Dozo in order to psych up the Dozo stat changes, and we do get knocked off on Meowstic, but Meowstic would have gone for Thunderbolt into Incineroar, and Dozo would have gone for Liquidation into Incineroar, and that would have ended the game there. But yeah, just an overall super simple Dozo strategy. Just stall for long enough that you get Tatsugiri knocked out by its own poison, and then you can either bring Flamigo or the Meowstic in order to take advantage of the stat changes. But if you can't bring Dozo and Tatsugiri for whatever reason, you can maybe bring one of them and then slot in Archaludon or Mousehold for better support or better attack into specific Pokemons. But thankfully, that is going to be it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked it, maybe consider leaving a like on the video, and even consider subscribing, because both of those things help me out an absolute ton, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you.